Okay.
Greetings, Your Majesty. I honor you as I honor myself. My name is Kathia Bruno, and I would like to welcome you to Honor Thy Royal podcast, A Self Love Journey. Tonight, our topic is He is Honor. And this, um, this episode was eye-opening for me. Um, I didn't know, you know, how it was going to go. Even the notes are not set up the typical way. This sounds really weird in my ear, but I'm not that ambitious. Okay, so we have discussed a woman's honor, a daughter's honor, a son's honor, and we are finally reached fathers and husbands. Um, in doing this episode, preparing for this episode, um, I think uh, moving forward, we'll get into the kingdom marriages. I did not know how God wanted to do it, but I know that was the seed that He kept dropping into my spirit. Um, so, yeah, let's get into it. So, the way I have it lined up on here, they're side by side, father and husband, but we're going to talk about them in, I guess I'll do it simultaneously. So I have 9 um, points. The first one is understanding. 2 is being a provider. 3 is being a teacher, leader, and counselor. 4 is provision. 5 is he is a protector. 6, a communicator. 7, uh, 7 and 8 are rage and anger. And 9 is being a lover versus being a covering. So I was worried about, you know, more people getting offended. The scripture that I was sent, I, in trying not to offend people, I was missing the blessing that God was giving me through the scriptures. So I am going to start with Hosea chapter 1. Bear with me. And I would just like to say this for the people who may or may not get offended. And you know what? Maybe I will do a series on the spirit of offense. But ask yourself, why is this offending me? Maybe there's some truth to it that I need to deal with myself. Because the only way someone can offend me, personally, me, Kathia, is if you are going out of your way to challenge my intelligence. Other than that, you're entitled to your opinion. Everybody has them. How I categorize your opinions, you will never know. As far as a father in 2024, um, not all fathers have children. Yeah. Some of them have adopted children, um, from like their stepchildren's friends and stuff like that. Some fathers have sheep. They are shepherds. We are spiritual fathers. Then, but they're a father with or without children. But for the people who do have children, bear with me. For the husbands who are currently husbands or planning to be husbands, please just hear what is said versus whatever you might be feeling. Because let me tell you, this Hosea chapter 1 was just downright disrespectful. And as a human being reading it, you would expect men and women, more so women, to be offended by what I'm about to read. However, please hear what is said and please understand a husband marries a wife. However, both men and women make up the bride to the bridegroom. So everything that might point fingers in some of these scriptures toward women, please understand that God is speaking to the men because it is the men who will be held accountable for what happens. It is the men who are supposed to stabilize the home and the church and the community. Okay, that was my disclaimer. Here we go. I'm going to skip verse 1. Hosea's wife and children. So, husband and father. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go marry a prostitute, a promiscuous woman, and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord." So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel." Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. For I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses and horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them. After she weaned Lo Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, "Call him Lo-Ammi, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it is said to them, 'You are not my people,' they will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together. They will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel." The reason that scripture is what I'm starting with, and just bear with me. A man who is after God's heart also needs to understand what sacrifice is, what being faithful is, what being honest is, what carrying morals and traditions and values really means, because all of those things are supposed to be from you, husband and father, to God. Between you, father, and your children and God, you are in between. So God, you, children. For a husband, same thing. God, husband, wife. So if you are not able to, stay faithful to God, can you really complain about people being faithful to you? If you, and not to say everyone needs to be perfect, there's no such thing. And no matter how many times I say it, I digress. But anywho, for God to tell someone to go and take a woman who no father would actually, encourage their son to take a promiscuous woman as a wife. And yet, it's right there in the Bible. So for the women who are promiscuous and hot girl summer every day, you're going to be redeemed. Because God loves you, He's still going to have a desired end for you and your family. If you have, a whole bunch of children and you've never been married, God still has a desired end for you and your children. Each one of your children is a different nation. Each one has a purpose that God placed on the inside of them. And being as though we're talking about dads and husbands, not moms and wives, we did that dance. It's your turn. Here we go. Yeah, I don't. Okay. Understanding and covering. Fathers provide, with or without physical, biological children. Fathers provide understanding and covering for their children and their sheep and anyone under their covering. As a husband, before, during, and after the marriage, husbands provide and cover their wives only. That's who they became one with. Providing understanding, quite literally, is sitting down and having a conversation with someone. You are, when you're talking to your sons and your daughters as a father, you are purposely starting conversations. You're not waiting for your children to come to you. You are their father. They don't even know how to really come to you until they have a rapport with you, which they will not have unless you converse with them. And during conversations, yes, children say the darnest things. Yes, children are brutally honest. Little crumb snatchers. My niece told me when she was like 7, anything above the age of 10 was old. And in those moments, as a father, you don't get upset. Their understanding is not yours, and they will not have your understanding until you provide it to them in a way that they can understand it and digest it. The way fathers talk to their sons is nowhere near how, they talk to their daughters. When it comes to a man, man and God, that is. God will tell you, command you, instruct you. He's just going to tell you what it is, and it is what it is. But when it comes to a woman, God will send angels, he'll send signs and wonders. He speaks. We're not meant to deal with the harshness of a man. And the only time, a daughter has to deal with the harshness of a man is when a man does not A, know himself, B, cannot control himself, and C, has no honor or regard. Not all men are created equal. There are great men, there are standard men, there are subpar men, and there are just lesser men. Every day you wake up, you get to decide where you want to be on that scale. And if you start off as a great man and you start, hustling backwards down the slope, you need to do some evaluation, have conversations with other people who will help bring you back up to where you were and where you're supposed to be. That's also why, you're supposed to make sure your children understand as a father, you don't bring everyone to my house. I, for, I'm not a man. I don't have any of the body parts of a man. So all of my life moments are coming from me. My stepdaughter, they're kids, so they're making friends. When she would go to school and ask if people could come over, I'm like, sure, your friends can come over. Just make sure they're the type of people that, deserve to be around you. Because if they're not, I will kindly drive them all the way home and explain to them and their parental units why they will never be allowed back in my house or around you. So choose wisely. And if at a young age they start choosing the type of friends that elevate them, that motivate them, that encourage them, inspire them, and genuinely, have good intentions all the time, by the time they're teenagers, you don't have to worry about it. They're not going to have two different sets of friends, ones that are okay to come over and ones that I want to, do bad things with. It's not like that. You allow your children to be themselves. The very instant you start limiting their personalities, limiting the things that they like, limiting the way that they talk, you begin to help them create an alter ego. Okay, I can act this way in front of my mom or my dad, but when I just want to be me and just let loose, I know don't do it in front of them. So then hiding things, lying, omitting becomes, part of their personality. I never had those types of issues because the way I was raised, I had no limits. There was nothing I couldn't do. And even when I would talk to my dad, he would, you know, my dad is not the best example, and we'll get into that later, but he would tell me, like, okay, get lost, please. And, just there was a lot of cursing, a lot of cursing. But he would the points where he would tell me to get lost is when my understanding was forcing him to reevaluate himself and he didn't feel like doing it. And it wasn't until I got older I realized that that's what it was. So my dad and I had a very weird relationship until I was 23. Um, but for a father, your understanding is history. Everything that you know, all of the information that you hold in your head, that you carry in your heart, you're passing it down. And this is how history gets taught without going to school. Everything you know, you're purposely teaching your kids. Way, way, way back in the day, there was before schools, children would just go to work and watch what's happening. There were no books to instruct them. There was no homework. It's just you watch, you do, and that's it. This is how, Peter the baker versus Peter the farmer came about. You have your job, you have your tasks, you have your activities. You do not deviate from the plan set for you by your father. When it comes to providing a covering for your children, your covering is, it's a lot easier for men. Anyhow, your covering is your ability to nurture, pour into, and feed every aspect of your child, every aspect of the sheep that God has given you to shepherd. And the primary significance of a covering, especially one provided by your father, is the fact that his spirit, his covering, his blessings that God has given him, he has accepted the responsibility of each one of these children as he is supposed to by the grace of God. And he is also accepting the punishments that come from not doing what God is asking him to do with these children. For the fathers who have children and, they're they are lesser men, they're deadbeats. There are punishments that are coming, whether they're living in those punishments or it's going to happen later on in life. It's coming. Because when that book of life gets read back, I gave you this seed to nurture, to watch over. You committed the act to steal the seed in the first place. And now you have this seed and you're not taking care of it. How dare you? How dare you? For the fathers who are very, I won't say mild-mannered, but they are part-time dads, even if they're living in the house full-time. My dad stayed married to my mom and lived with us until he kicked the bucket, but he was a part-time dad. Yeah, and that's me giving him a lot of grace. There are punishments that will come if you abandon the child that you took from God. If you're not ready for it, don't do the act. Um, Let me see. That's lesser and subpar standard. Okay. For the dads who are there, but they are empty or they're numb, they're physically there, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, they're not there. They're there physically. They can put on a good face for the sake of their family, but they are checked out. It's just a shell of a person who shows up because they're supposed to, but it's not because they are coming home happily to play with the children that God gave them. It's not because they are looking forward to watching this tiny little thing that grew out of something that big, and inside of the woman that you laid with, a pair of eyes formed, pair of hands formed, an entire heart formed inside of this woman. She had to protect herself, even, and it may have even been from the father of this child. She had to protect herself and everything about her to bring this child to its father. And now this child is here and you are watching them grow up, but you are not excited to see, what they're going to do. You're not excited to see how they're going to overcome this issue. You are more concerned with, disciplining them and making sure that they respect you. Respect is earned, it's not given. Your children will have a certain level of respect for you. And if you are a standard father, they might even have more respect for their teacher than you. Their teacher is actually teaching them. Their teachers are actually stretching their mind. Their the people at church are stretching their spirits. You live with them and you are just there. You're not helping them grow. You're not helping them stretch. Now, a great father is someone who is very difficult for me to, come down to like describe people and not talk about God. So I know God as my father. I know him as my provider. I've never been his slave, but we'll get to that. A great father is someone who enjoys every aspect of their child's life, regardless of, what the adult man has going on in his life, because he is honored to have these children, because he respects the blessing that is in each one of these children that God has given him. He is excited to watch his kids get excited. They're kids. They don't even know what true excitement is. But I mean, childlike glee is precious and it should be protected. That's what a great father knows, and that's what he protects. That's what he preserves. This is why he will go above and beyond to make sure he's preserving his children's innocence. It's not up for grabs. It's not an option. He's going to do what he needs to do to make sure his children are creating happy mental pictures on a regular basis. He's doing what he needs to, even if it means, putting in overtime so he can take his kids who cannot pay bills on vacations and trips and give them a childhood. Now, understanding, shifting gears now, understanding as a husband, again, understanding comes through communication. So, as a husband, you have chosen this person that you're going to become one with, which means your thoughts are her thoughts. Her thoughts are your thoughts. The only way that statement can be true is if the two are talking to each other and sharing their thoughts. And being a wife is like, it's very, yeah, I'll save that for later. But um, being a wife requires a lot of strength and understanding, especially depending on the type of man you decide to marry. And this is because if you are with someone who does not communicate well, they got to communicate somehow. They just don't do it well or well enough for uh, other people. If and when they do get married, the thoughts that they are not sharing, they probably are just holding it inside because everyone has thoughts, everyone has opinions, everyone has comments. So if they're not good at communicating with just any and everybody, there will be someone that God will place in their life that they can share all of these things with. And once the two have, open, honest communication on a regular basis, guess what happens? The bond between God, husband, and wife, the three become one. And a cord of three is not easily broken. So, the more he communicates, the more he shares with his wife, even if, you know, he has seen and, excuse me, and gone through some of, the worst types of experiences, whether childhood circumstances or occupation, if he is able to share that with his wife, she becomes his diary. And a diary, no matter how old you are, you understand that a diary is sacred. It is something that you do protect. You hide it. You keep it away from any and everybody because it holds so much of you. That is your wife, and you are that to your wife. You are also that to your children because a lot of kids feel like, well, back in my day anyway, my parents won't understand. So they keep things to themselves because they don't think their parents would understand. Meanwhile, parents are older than their children. They may not have been through the same exact experiences, but they are able to comprehend. And if they aren't, because there are, some adults who have children and may even be married, but they are not fully matured. Ah. One for me. um, cancel. Okay, moving on. Father as a provider. Father provides for his domain and everyone and everything in his domain. So, as a father, you have your household, you have your children, you have pets, you have electricity, you have cars, you have driveways, you have bills, your kids have friends, you, you have anybody that would be allowed in your household or around you is your domain. Everywhere you go is your domain. So providing is being able to feed the spirits, the minds, um, the beings of the people that you say you care about who are attached to your heart. And everywhere you go, whether your children are with you or not, you are going to carry yourself in a way that makes your children proud to keep the same traditions, morals, and values to make you proud. It's a cycle. Um, as a husband, you provide for your wife. And it really is that simple. You leave your parents' nest to build a new nest with your wife, the person you have chosen to become one with. There's another scripture, but I'll wait on it. Father, as I'm going to try to skip through these. Father, as a teacher, leader, counselor, you are a teacher of God's will and His word for the entire household. You lead your children by the way and words of God. When you counsel your children, and this includes, even harsh discipline, you do it in the way that God has dealt with you. And please don't get stuck on that harsh punishment thing because you wouldn't want God to do some of the things you do to your children. Um, I'll get to that later. You are also a judge over your children. Psalm 94, verse 12. Psalm 94, verse 12 through 15. Blessed is the one you discipline, Lord, the one you teach from your law. You grant them relief from days of trouble, till a pit is dug for the wicked. For the Lord will not reject his people, he will never forsake his inheritance. Judgment will again be founded on righteousness, and all the upright in heart will follow it. When you have children, you teach them not just the laws of the land, but the laws of heaven that God has set for us. And you teach them that God's will is for us to bring heaven to earth. Though this earth, and even, ash to ashes, dust to dust, belongs to other principalities, it doesn't if, heaven invades it. And a lot of kids, they don't really learn about the access they have to heaven and God's blessings until they are adults. So they go through life not even knowing that they are here by the grace of God. So then by the time they become an adult, they don't even really know what to make of God. And that is like shameful, you know? You got one job, bringing them back to the Lord. And as a husband, you are also a teacher, you are the head, you are the counselor, you're the friend, you're the diary, and you are the source of everything else for your wife. As a single woman, It's just me. I am the source for whatever it is that I got to get done today, tomorrow, next week. But the source that powers me and empowers me is God. And until I get married, there is nobody that I'm going to say is, my everything. I am everything to myself by the grace of God. When you, as a husband, take your wife, you become one. So everything that you already are to yourself and, before you get married, you are going to also be those things and provide those things to your wife. All the things that she already does for herself, she's going to willingly and freely do with and for you. And the two of you are completely different individuals. So the way you love on yourself, young man, even if you're married already, when you know better, you do better. And the more you do better, you're going to keep learning better and getting better. So if you only know how to love yourself, young man, one way, when you get married to someone, now you're going to love on her that same way. She is going to, if she only knows how to love one way, she's going to love on you that same way. So now you will be receiving a love that you've never felt or had before, and same with her. And the two of you are going to learn each other, and you are going to establish and develop a brand new way of loving each other. And it will be brand new because nobody else is going to be loving on either one of you that same way or period, in that realm. And B, if you married her, that was your choice. So to go outside of your marriage or, give any parts of yourself to someone else means A, you're a bad judge in character. B, you should not be allowed to make choices because you don't even like the choices that you've made. And if neither one of those things are true, then guess what? There's nothing stopping you from loving on your wife harder every single day that you're alive. She's your wife. She is you. She is your other half. Her value is the same value you give yourself. And if you don't give yourself value and you took God's daughter and you're not giving her value, how dare you? Isaiah 54, verse 5 through 7. I'll start from 4. Isaiah 54, verse 4 through 7. 4 through 8. Do not be afraid, you will not be put to shame. Do not fear disgrace, you will not be humiliated. You will forget the shame of your youth, and remember no more the reproach of your widowhood. For your Maker is your husband. The Lord Almighty is his name. The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He is called the God of all the earth. The Lord will call you back as if you were a wife deserted and distressed in spirit, a wife who married young, only to be rejected, says your God. For a brief moment I abandoned you, but with deep compassion I will bring you back. In a surge of anger I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have compassion on you, says the Lord your Redeemer. And again, please hear what is said. This is not just speaking to women. Men and women make up the bride, which is the church, for the bridegroom. Likewise, however, for husbands, you make your wife by marrying her. You make a woman out of her. You make a wife out of her. You make a mother out of her. You make a lot of things out of your wife. And I'll get to the anger later, but deal with people how God deals with you. Some people just have some heavy, toxic, demonic spirits, and you deal with them accordingly. Root out evil by the roots, which means to be completely erased, never to be heard from, dealt with, or experienced again. If it goes against God's will for your life, if it goes against how you're supposed to bring down heaven to earth, dead that. Throw it in the trash, burn it, throw it into the ocean, but get rid of it. Because all it's going to do is, kill your grass. And as a husband and as a father, the grass is greener where you nurture it. So don't let things, come and like pop up weeds and those patches, those nasty patches of dead grass and everything else is okay. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it. Whatever it is, get rid of it. You have the strength to overcome whatever it is, whether it's an addiction, whether it is a habit, a hobby, if it is not serving the kingdom that you are building with your wife, and for your children, for the sake of their inheritance, you don't need it. It might satisfy you for now, it might, bring you instant gratification, but it's not meant to last. And if it does, it's going to be taking pieces of your soul with it. You don't need it. Dead that. Um, 84. I'm we're gonna zip through this. Oh wow, it is late. A father as a shield, Psalm 84, verse 10 through 12. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. For the Lord God is the sun and shield. The Lord be, uh, bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk, from his children, from those who walk is blameless. As a father, I really am going to try to skip through these. As a father, you are the shield. Nothing can harm your children so long as you live. You protect them in every way, whether you are physically there with them or not. That is what your covering is for. As a husband, it's the main reason why men walk on the outside of the sidewalk. If anything is going to come to harm your other half, your weaker vessel, your weaker side, anyone who's walking with you, they have to go through you. Back in my day, you picked a guy that looks like he can take a couple bullets and still live. For the sake of his physical body, he can handle it. But the problem was, mm, mm, ah, just stick to this. Promises of the Father. God will be a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows. He sets the lonely in families. He leads out prisoners with singing, but the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. Luke 12, verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourself that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Hosea 11, verse 1 and 2. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. But the more they were called, the more they went away from me. So it's a lot there. When God is calling a father or a husband, and anyone really, but when God is calling, we tend to not want to listen because it means having to be honest. Okay, he's calling me out of something, out of bondage, out of an addiction, out of something that he does not want, or else he would leave me in it. So if he's calling you out, you know what, God, how about I just stay here for like another 5 minutes, another 3 days, another 52 weeks, another 375.25 days. We're refusing him. And as a man, you have the greatest amount of willpower in order to overcome on purpose. So if you choose not to do the right thing, nobody's holding a gun to your head, love. That's all on you. But you have bigger fish to fry. And once you realize that, that's when you'll be ready to make certain changes. In 2024, there are a lot of men who are fathers without being a husband. Redman had a song, and in that song, it said, you're just a little boy doing grown man things. Message. But for the most part, if you are a father and you've never been married, it will be, a lot difficult. It will be, maybe you might deal with some anxiety, some fear. You're going to deal with a lot of emotions in a very short amount of time. Part of the reason for that is because when a man marries a woman and is making a home with her, every step of the way, even in the bedroom, especially in the bedroom, but we're not going to talk about that in this episode, they are guiding each other. So when anything about, a pregnancy or a child is coming about, he's not just dealing with that by himself. His wife, who he has already gotten to know since they've been married, understands his heart, understands his thought process, and vice versa. So they have each other to bounce everything off of: good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. But when you skip certain steps, you don't learn how to love on your wife as yourself. So then loving the child that is going to come out of her and she's not your wife is going to be supernatural, because that bond is instant if you're there, but it will be a little stressful because you're not going to understand just how to keep that bond sacred and innocent and pure without bleeding into your child's life. Um, provision is greater than money, words, and showing up for birthdays. Includes providing morals, values, integrity, structure, discipline, God, knowledge, instructions on the fruits of the Spirit you passed on, in addition to the fruits you dream to receive from your children and sheep. So, providing morals and values. In 2024, it's a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And that is because a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men pick and choose if and when they want to be a gentleman. And to be a gentleman, whether you're married or not, or plan on getting married, to be a gentleman is like one of the most daunting things to do because it requires you to take the high road all the time. Even when people are provoking you, you have to have some type of couth. You have to have some structure to how you deal with pests because that's all they are. Other than that, they would be dealing with you as a gentleman because you are a gentleman and you should only be associating yourself with other gentlemen. But not everybody is like that. But as a father, you are supposed to help your children understand um, how vitally important it is for them to maintain being a gentleman. You are supposed to help them understand how and why you prioritize certain values, certain traditions over others. That way, when they grow up, they will already understand because this is something that they've been watching the greatest example in their life, which is their father, do. And if you are not a father, but you are raising children, you're a stepdad, you are dating somebody who you feel you want to take responsibility for their children, while you're there, be the greatest gentleman, example of a gentleman that they will be. I was going to share um, stories on like 5 different fathers that I've had in my life. And, you know, well, you don't know, but let's see, 3 of them were, well, one was my dad. The second one was my spiritual father, my late bishop, when I was a kid. And the third one was my my first relationship was a decade, so his dad was my dad, and he would, you know, fuss with his son if he did something to me or did something that he did not appreciate. He had 3 other daughters, but I was number 4. And, you know, to watch how he verbally and constructively disciplined his son on my behalf, he took the time to stop whatever he was doing in order to discipline his son verbally and constructively in front of me and behind my back. Because old boy would tell me whatever, man, my dad said this because you felt like this or because you looked like something was wrong. He was getting on my case. The other 2 men were not like father figures that I could sit down and talk to all the time, but they were examples of what a great husband looks like. And I thank God for, the men that he placed in my life. Oh, and I almost forgot about my two daddy uncles, uncle daddies. Um, but yeah, anywho, to be a great man, it's not just in the things that you have done for yourself. It's in the nations of men that you produce, whether they are your sons, your spiritual sons and daughters, whether regardless, if you have younger people under the sound of your voice, you are raising them. Back in my day, depending on how the relationship, yeah, that's my little son. But in 2024, some people take that a little weird, but you're helping them develop into a better version of themselves. If you're not willing to give them the guidance, the correction, constructive criticism, then what are you there for? You're just in the way. Because no matter what, these young people are going to grow older. And if you don't give them your understanding while they're young, they're not going to need you when they get older. My brother, I mean, we graduated high school at 16, but my brother did something and my dad was trying to discipline him at 17. And my brother straight up told my dad, like, listen, young boy, because that's what he called my dad. Rude boy, that's what he called my dad. He was like, I needed you when I was younger. I'm 17 now. There's nothing you're about to tell me. My dad just had to respect it. I didn't give you the guidance. I didn't sit you down and tell you this. Over the years, I've sat down and like had more conversations with my younger brother about conversations I had with my dad, and he's like, he never talked to me like that. Well, I was raised as a son. I'm the first between the two of us. I'm the oldest. And, my understanding was more developed. So daddy couldn't just do and say certain things because I'm watching you. If you say something that is contradictory to what I understand, I need you to explain it, not now, but right now. Boys don't do that. If you upset a young man, he's just going to shut down and he'll be in his feelings until, either A, someone pulls him out, or B, he finds a way to have his feelings and emotions subside. As a husband, oh, as a husband, provision is for the heart, mind, spirit, body, and soul of your wife till death do you part. You cannot provide what you do not nurture and cherish yourself. You can't provide a good home if you don't prioritize, having a good home life. You can't provide stability if stability is not a priority for you. You cannot say, I'm going to create heaven on earth for my wife, and you don't even create a heaven for yourself while you're on this earth. The whole purpose is to bring down heaven. And if everyone is focused on bringing down their part of heaven, when you get married, both of you are bringing down two different parts of heaven on purpose to strengthen each other. You want to create heaven on earth for her, and she wants to bring you into her part of heaven. You're going to create it together on purpose, intentionally. But if that's not something you prioritize, then it's not going to be something you're going to understand how to nurture. Likewise, two become one, two hearts become one. If you do not prioritize self-love and self-appreciation, self-reflection, you're not going to be able to give those things or nurture those things within your wife and household. You provide a covering. By the grace of God, you provide a covering as a husband and father. No matter what you do, if you are a child of God, He's got you covered, and that's where your covering comes from. However, there's levels to it. So if you're not doing the things to strengthen your covering, which is strengthening your connection to the source of your covering, then, again, there's levels to it. Great covering, standard mediocre covering, subpar covering, and cannon fodder. Because if you're not covered by the kingdom of heaven or by God, there's only heaven or hell. Choose wisely. Gosh darn it, I'm not going to make it through all of these. Okay, maybe I'll just do this last one. Um, Father as a protector provides protection from witnessing and or experiencing evils, misdealings, or anything against the kingdom that you are raising your children to inherit. This requires the father's covering, which he must keep connected to the source for their sake. So I won't share that. Whether you prioritize attending church versus being a part of church. You might go to church to show face because it's what you're supposed to do. Your heart may or may not be in it, but once you get in there, you allow yourself to enjoy the atmosphere. But once you leave church, you don't think about it again until, the next time you have to go. As a father who understands you need God's grace, God's instruction, God's mercy, God's forgiveness in order to properly raise and train up your children. The only way you're going to get that understanding, young man, is by going to church and learning about God and how He's dealing with you. And maybe you had a life that, was chaotic. Now you have children, and God has blessed you with the ability to not allow them to grow up and have a very chaotic and destructive life. That's a blessing. And the only way you can appreciate it is because you know what you've been through. Like, I am I am very silly, I'm goofy, I'm very chill, mellow, and laid back. However, baby, that other side of me, she has been out to play for over 20 years. And I just turned 39 last Thursday. So, she's on a vacation, but I don't lock her up. That's still a part of me. I know what I've been through, so I know what I will not allow in my future. If it's something I've been through, then that means it's already in the past, which means not that it's a non-factor, but it's not a heavy factor on my present or my future. As a father, whatever you've been through in your life, you have grown from child to adult. You have overcome whatever happened before you saw this episode, before you had children, before you got to a point in understanding that whatever happened does not have to define your future. Whatever happened is something you overcame. It's not just that you made it through, it's not just that you survived it, you overcame it. That's why it's not destroying you. As a father, as a kingdom minded father, Christ like minded father, you know, maybe even close dealings with the types of evil that you have already overcome. God saved your life. Go to church and say thank you and be as extra as you want to. Who's going to check you? If anything, God's going to bless you. um, but you're going to stay, connected to God and stay connected to the things that keep you connected to God, because you want to be able to maintain and be a blessing to the blessings that He has given you. So you stay connected to God for the sake of your children. You stay connected to God for the sake of the nation that you're building up. You stay connected to God so that He can bless your kingdom. You stay connected to God because you want your children to have the biggest inheritance ever. And it may not be in this realm, but they will have blessings upon blessings. And it may be, maybe you're gonna, as a father, as the great father that you are, as the great father you intend on being, maybe just the fact that you are excited to be a father, you feel honored to be a father, you are looking forward to becoming a father. Maybe just you planting those seeds is going to cause a massive, massive ripple effect through your bloodline down to the next 77 generations. But it starts with you. And you start by being connected to the source. As a husband, ooh, protecting her means protecting yourself. Protecting her mental means protecting your mental. Protecting her physical body means protecting your physical body. Protecting her honor means protecting your honor. Protecting her integrity means protecting your integrity, your morals, your values. Protecting what she loves and cares about means protecting her right to love. So if I'm the weaker vessel, that means the stronger vessel has more, I don't want to say intensity, but they have more access to doing things and handling things. Protecting my right to love means you are creating a space where I am free to love what I want. I am free to love who I want. And if we're married, I love who you love and you love who I love. And I'm not going to allow myself to love people that would hurt you or love on people that you would not want to love on. Now, if I have family members that are not, the greatest with you and not the best communicator with you, or vice versa, maybe your mom, sister, brother, cousin, I don't know, don't like me. As your wife, it's my job to check my family. It's your job to check your family. Because no matter what, we love each other. Side note, I personally will not marry somebody who I cannot get along with their family. God knows I'm not doing that again. So whoever he has for me, I already know, Lord, we already discussed this. Here's what we're not doing. Here's what I'm not accepting. And by the grace of God, because he loves me, he already knows he's going to bless me with greater. I know how and why I appreciate people because of having people who did not appreciate me, who I could not love on because they did not want me to love on them. So for me, if anybody, if anybody does not want me to love on them, dude, not a problem. Not a problem. God, you got me? Oh, okay. I'm okay. And this is as a woman. If I am married to somebody and, I'm letting them know like something is wrong, between a relationship, he's my other half. Yes, I'm going to tell him. It doesn't matter who it is. Because if I have to hide it from him, how can he be my diary and I'm hiding things from him? That's the purpose of him being a diary. So if I let him know, hey, XYZ is wrong, or um, Tom, Dick, and Harry made me feel some type of way, I'm telling him not just so he can fix it, but maybe he can give me a different perspective. Maybe it's in my head, but he's going to calm me down because I am his heart. And if he does need to go do some investigation or research, he's going to do that without telling me. And if he finds something, he's going to handle it without telling me. So if all of a sudden I'm no longer having the same issues after talking to him, guess what? I'm going to want to thank him, whether I realize it right away or not. But when I do realize that he is the reason that everything is going much more smoothly, I'm going to want to thank him over and over and over and over again. What? And there are more than, just physical and sexual ways to say thank you to somebody. I look forward to figuring out what they are. However, as a husband, you are protecting everything that keeps the stability of your foundation between you, God, and your wife together. There is no separation, because if there is, this is where the enemy will enter through. So you stay connected to the source and to each other on purpose so that nobody can say anything, get in between anything, uncover anything. You don't have to worry about those things because there's no way for anybody else's voice except your wife, your husband, and God's voice. And you are protecting her heart by protecting yours, which means you're not going to have, a whole bunch of women that you're talking to. You have a wife. And there are only but so many conversations you can have in a day. And regardless of what it is, I saw this thing where this a lady was like, I just came from the supermarket and I had to buy my husband Dino Nuggets. It's funny to hear that it's a grown adult who is buying another grown adult Dino Nuggets. But if that were my husband, I dare anybody to make him feel any type of way about what he likes. And he trusts me enough to let me know the silliest things that make him happy. As a woman, I can say, it's the little things that matter. It's the same thing for him. He might just want to, I want to ride go-karts, but he just might want to fly a drone, go fishing, and the RC cars, race those around. Those are the types of things that make him happy. If he wants some Dino Nuggets, listen, I will make him some Dino Nuggets from scratch and buy the little cutout things so that they're his favorite shape. And matter of fact, if he has a favorite dinosaur, mine is a pterodactyl. But if he has a favorite one, I'm gonna see if, I can find the mold that he likes. And if not, maybe, if I'm that ambitious and have the free time, I will create a resin mold just so I can make his favorite thing that he likes to see. I can do that for him. You know why? Because that's what I would do for myself. And I spoil me. I spoil me. So of course I'm gonna love on him the same way. And guess what? I'm not expecting him to love me the same way I love him. I want to see how his love for me evolves. And the only way his love for his wife can evolve is if he is protecting his heart from things that would break it, from things that would break my heart. Is only the only way we can evolve together is if he is protecting his integrity. He's not going to be lying. He's not going to be cheating. He's not going to be in places he should not be. He's not going to be the wingman for somebody else who is married. He's not going to be a wingman, period. I'm here with you. That's what you like. Okay. But I'm not getting involved in that because things can get complicated and messy. And guess what? I got a whole wife at home. If I want things to get complicated and messy, I'm gonna ask her to bake me a cake from scratch, and I want her to pop out of the cake. That is complicated and messy. But anywho, as a man, like there's so much to you that women want to love. And in this hookup culture that we have, is it's really difficult to figure out the things about you that are super fun across the board, whether you are, hanging out with your kids and eating your favorite meals and favorite snacks, or teaching them how to cook the things that you like, because the things you like, your kids are going to like. Things you love, your children are going to love. The things you honor, your children are going to honor. The things that you hold sacred, your children are going to do the same. And that includes how you discipline them. I guess that'll be the last one, and I'll end it here.
Ooh.
I really could go on talking about men because there's just so much. And I'll wait for the kingdom marriages. But yeah, I'll end it here. I truly hope that every young man who is a father, who is a husband, who is about to become a father or about to become a husband, who plans on becoming a father in the future or plans on becoming a husband, I truly hope you understand, A, you were created by a really, really, really big God who has some serious jealousy issues. So, as a man, it's understandable if you guys have jealousy issues also. But you keep those in check. Your wife is your wife. If she's not your wife, there's, I won't say there's no reason, but choose wisely the things that you decide to become jealous over. I will say, like, for me, I am not a jealous person. I'm extremely territorial, but I'm not jealous. There's not another female walking this earth that has anything for me to be jealous about at all. You might have, a bigger chest, more thighs, might be taller than me. That's like everybody above the age of 12. But like, God only allows things to grow until they're perfect. Some of us didn't take as long as others. Accept me for who I am. And whoever God has for me is also going to accept me for the size and shape that I am. As a man who is with a woman, she is not going to, she should not be the type of person who's okay with, you know, exciting your anger. And I didn't even get to that part. Or exciting your jealousy. She is not going to delight in bringing out the things that may make you insecure. That's not what she's there for. You don't make yourself insecure. You don't make yourself jealous. Now, if you're having certain conversations with yourself that are leading to that train of thought, that's the enemy, and you should probably dead that. Um, you were created the way you are on purpose. Mind you, men were created to be a friend to the King of Kings, the God of heaven, the one who wants to bless his children with everything in the kingdom. The only reason you may not be experiencing that is if you're not doing the things that, you know, you need to do to stay connected to your father, your heavenly father. As a husband, God is the groom. Jesus is the bridegroom. The groom is the one receiving the wife, the bride, the blessing. And the church is the bride to the bridegroom. And when Jesus receives us, guess what? He is the bridegroom. He then is going to take us and represent us to God, not as sacrifices, but as heirs. Men are literally supposed to sit at the right hand of God, at the right hand of Jesus. There might be, you know, really long line disciples and all the other people that probably kicked the bucket before you. But for the most part, your place is at the right hand of Jesus on purpose. And then everybody that you attach to yourself, everybody who is under the sound of your voice, they get to have access to your blessings, not your part of heaven, not your inheritance. They get to have access to your blessings. So if they find their lives, you know, being enriched because they know you, because they had conversations with you, because they're learning from you, they get to live in your overflow. And it will not take away from what you are already supposed to inherit as a friend of God. And as a husband to one of God's daughters, what? Especially if God is the one that put it together, there's a, it's special because when you think about a traditional wedding, the father is supposed to give away, you know, the bride, his daughter, his prized possession. Back in the day, it was it was like selling your daughter to the highest bidder. You know, you want to make your houses great, you marry her off to another great house. Whether she's happy or not, you don't know. But when God is the one that puts something together, he knows. He knows what blessings he has for the two apart, and he knows how much greater he's going to bless them once they come together the right way. So if you're taking care of God's daughters, he's going to take care of you. If you are doing the things to protect God's daughter from any and everything that would, you know, ruin her day, even for 5 minutes, God is going to bless you that much more. And for people who can't really get the spiritual aspect of it, if you are a father, think how you feel as soon as you hold your daughter and how happy and excited and how honored you feel to be her protector. And now think about how all of those nice, good, mushy feelings on the inside of you, holding your baby girl, seeing her looking up at you, and knowing that she thinks you are the greatest thing, period. The, not even sliced bread, not whatever cartoons kids are into. You know, none of the things that she enjoys compares to the love she has for her father. And to think of the evil men who would dare to hurt her, the anger that rises up in you, the instant rage of someone taking away her smile. That's how God feels about us. So if he gives us to you, he wants to bless you. Now, if you decide to deviate from the plan, that's between you and God. That's between you and God. But he's still going to bless you for the sake of his daughter. Just, don't incur the wrath because she then has to suffer with you. And vice versa. As as a husband, there's so many scriptures where God is letting us know he is the husband, he is the maker. He makes nations out of couples. Two people produce as many kids as God gives them. And from each one of those children, they produce as many kids as God gives them. That's how nations are born. Each child you have carries within them the ability and possibility to birth out another nation, an entire generation of people who are going to carry the promises of God that He gave to you as a father and husband, that you have passed on through conversations and understanding to your children. They have valued the things that you have taught them and are now reteaching those same values to their children. And because every single generation wants to bring down the kingdom of heaven, not just advance their own wealth, not just advance their own pockets, not just, advance the people that they know and forget everybody else, not to create disparities, not to create economic dysfunction, not to create more super prisons, but people who genuinely want to come together and raise their kids to want the same thing. Could you imagine? And this goes back to the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel um, is a story in the Bible. Nations, I forget, I don't know the people's names, but there was a great warrior. Um, he wanted to, he started building this tower all the way to heaven, and they were doing it without God. And they could almost reach to heaven. God decided since they didn't need God, he separated everybody and enter language, nations, and differences. Could you imagine if a group of kingdom minded, Christ like men, fathers and husbands, brothers and sons, all purposely came together to bring heaven down instead of us trying to get up there, bringing it down to earth? Then, I, I digress. But anyhow, every good thing that is possible, if you can think it, if you can dream it, if God allows you to see it, then it's possible. How to go about creating it, that's something God has to download into you. But it requires you to be connected to the source. But if He allows you to experience it, if He allows you to dream it, if He shows you the vision, then it's something that's definitely possible. And it's probably for you to carry out, or dream big enough for it to begin to take shape and manifest. And maybe your kids will, take over the dream from there. But yeah. I really, truly, my prayer for men, period, regardless of where you are in your faith walk, part of the reason we have faith is for other people, for the people that we love. If someone you cared about were to be sick, you want to be able to pray to God and, receive a miracle while you're praying. Um, you want to be able to pray and not worry. You want to be able to teach the people around you also. You can't pray and worry. You can't pray and doubt. You can't pray in fear. You can't pray and do something that goes against the kingdom of heaven. If God said it and it's yours, then that's what's going to happen. And that type of Godfidence, that word is so funny, but that kind of confidence in God only comes from a connection. I can walk around, as a man, I will walk around on swole all I want to. You know why? Because God got me. I get to say that because I know He is going to make me great. Whether it's while I'm living, whether it's through my acts and deeds, whether it's through my loved ones, but He is going to give me such great peace, such great joy, and such great prosperity in abundance. And because He knows that I can be trusted with it, it's okay for me to have the overflow. It's okay. Like even this episode, the last couple of episodes, um, I do a lot of reading, yes, but it's not like before the episodes would take me like a couple of days. Um, but now it's like maybe 24 hours um, of prep time to get everything, all the topics and stuff. But I never know how it's gonna go. Gosh darn it. All right. So yeah, that's enough. That's your crown. Honor God royal. Thank God for men.